Hello students, welcome to part 3 of the Influencer Marketing mini-series. In this lecture we're going to be looking at how to get started with influencer marketing. So by the end of the session you should have developed learning around 3 key areas. First of all, you should have developed an awareness about the 3 different ways that brands can get started with influencer marketing. Hopefully you will also understand some of the research that brands can do to help them identify the ideal influencer. And finally, you should be able to evaluate the benefits and limitations around the various ways of working with an influencer. So let's get started. So the 3 main ways that brands can engage with an influencer include working with an influencer agency, or perhaps using an influencer platform, so an online platform, a web-based platform where influencers can upload their profile and brands can search for influencers and reach out to an influencer that meets their requirements. And the third way, which is to develop a direct relationship. So brands work directly with influencers. So they find the influencer, they draw up the agreement directly, and they manage the relationship without a third party. So those are the 3 broad ways that a brand or an organization can work with an influencer. So let's have a deeper look at each. First of all, let's look at influencer agency. So this is an example of one influencer agency called Gleam Futures. So with the popularity of influencer marketing and the large amounts of money that influencers can charge for their services, it figures that a number of agencies have popped up to help manage the relationship. So to help brands to navigate this fairly new marketing tactic, to help influencers protect their intellectual property and to ensure that they get paid for the work they do, specialist agencies have developed to help mediate this relationship. And of course, they charge for their services. So what sorts of services do influencer agencies provide? So first of all, they will take the time to ask questions and listen carefully to deeply understand your brand. And by deeply understanding your brand, they can help to find and connect you to the right influencer. Secondly, they will help you to design campaigns and help you to craft a creative brief. So they'll help to connect to the strong why behind your brand. Why are you in business? What is it you're trying to do? Who is it you're trying to help? What's unique about your product or service? And from that, they will create inventive, creative, original campaigns and help to develop a brief for the influencer to use so they know how to represent your brand. They'll also help to negotiate a contract. They'll also help you to negotiate and understand payments and how to agree payments and how to sort of set particular objectives and how to what to expect in return for the money that you spend and the fees that you pay for the agency and the influencer. Many agencies also provide technology. This technology can help to attribute the influencer's activity online directly to results for your business. So if that influencer is driving web traffic, or if that influencer is helping with the sales of your product or the donations to your charity, they will have technology that can help track whether traffic or leads are coming from the influencer's social media profiles or from their website to your website. They'll also help to automate payments, so they will, by taking a fee from you, be able to pay the influencer so you won't have to pay them directly, so they take care of all the payment side of things as well. And overall, they just help to manage the relationship, so you won't have to speak directly with the influencer. They will manage the relationship. They'll ensure that the influencer is keeping up and producing the content that they have promised to produce and help to communicate to you the success of the campaign. So influencer agencies provide a very end-to-end service. They are very all-encompassing. They have a lot of expert professionals. But because of this, they're quite expensive, perhaps too expensive for small to medium-sized businesses because they charge fees. So for all of the professionals they have working with them, they'll have teams to do administration. They will have teams to do negotiation. They'll have technology specialists. So the agency has to charge fees and also for its expertise. They'll also work with some of the top charging influencers. So an agency will tend to have influencers on their books that are very well established, that have large and very well engaged audiences. So using an influencer agency is only really an option for larger companies with a larger budget. So let's have a look at some of the other options that might be more affordable. So using an influencer platform is a more affordable option for small to medium-sized businesses. So an influencer platform is a web-based solution where influencers can actually register, log on, create a profile, and then link all of their social media accounts. Then the platform then sort of acts as an intermediary. It can see how many followers they have. It can measure the engagement per post. It can collate lots and lots of information about the influencer and other influencers, allowing the brand to have an overview of all the different influencers and run searches and specify specifics. So for example, if you were looking for an influencer in a certain geographical location, you could use the platform and search for influencers, let's say in Germany or in France or in the UK. If you were looking for an influencer with interest in a certain area, you could look for an influencer in the sports sector or charity sector or environmental sector. So the platforms allow you to very easily search for influencers based on certain parameters. So here's an example. So this is an influencer, Edna Todd. Now she's based in Germany. As you can see, she's female and the audience age is between 25 and 34. Now you can see from the data that Edna has 147,000 followers, and from those 147,000 followers, she has an interaction rate of 184 interactions per 1,000 followers. So this metric gives you an idea of how engaged the audience is. So it's dividing the number of engagements by the number of followers, so you can see whether or not this particular influencer has a high engagement level. It also gives some information about the number of posts and also gives them a rating. So Edna has 95 in terms of influencers that create engaging content and posts to regularly win over new customers effortlessly. So I'm not sure what algorithms the platform's running to get that particular metric, but it's a good way of seeing which influencers are more successful at actually creating great content that drives new customers. So platforms are very useful. They're more affordable than agencies, as a lot of it is automated using sort of software and algorithms. So all in all, platforms can help brands and influencers to connect. So it helps influencers to be seen by brands and helps brands to find influencers. It also helps brands find the right influencer by providing data, metrics, benchmarking and reports. You can also, a lot of the platforms offer additional tools to help you monitor the success of the campaign. So you can set your campaign up with the platform and it will actually give you data, sort of click-through rate or cost per click, that sort of information. So you know how well the influencer is doing in terms of whether their blog post is driving traffic to your website and those visitors are converting into donors or shoppers or buying tickets for your event. It can also help you see what's happening on social media, if people are engaging with the posts that the influencer is creating about your brand. So there's lots of handy tools and functions and features that platforms can offer. What they don't do is they don't actually create the campaign in itself. You'll still have to have a sort of a creative element within your own business, somebody who can actually come up with a campaign, communicate with the influencer as to some of the ideas, the tone, perhaps a glossary, providing digital content such as your logo, your brand colours, all of those sort of things. So you can give a pack of information about your brand and some resources for the influencer to use and some do's and don'ts. So you won't get the full end-to-end service that an agency provides, but you'll certainly get lots of metrics and data to help measure the success of your influencer once you've started the relationship with them. So overall, less expensive than an agency, but does require more time and more expertise to manage the campaign and to develop the creative process with the influencer. So now let's look at the next type of relationship that you can have with an influencer. So if you don't have the budget to use an agency and you look at using platforms and their premium option is again a little expensive, you can decide to develop a direct relationship with an influencer. So this will mean actually finding the influencer yourself. So you'll actually approach them directly rather than approaching them through a platform or going to an agency. So you'll have to try to find them. So that's one of the first challenges. This can take time and effort. Once you've found an influencer that you would like to work with, you need to reach out to them, and you'd need to be able to talk about what you're going to offer in return. So in return for their posts, whether that's blog posts or social media posts or YouTube videos, how are you paying them? Are you paying them per post, or are you paying them based on results? And how do you know if it's a fair fee that they're charging? So there's many more unknowns, and you'll have to craft the agreement, you'll have to develop a contract and a creative brief all by yourself. So it's a lot more time and effort, but it's much more affordable because you're not paying agency fees, or you're not paying for a platform. So it can be a little bit risky, as you don't have the benefit of having that sort of insurance cover and contractual arrangements that you would get if you worked for an agency. But if you find the right influencer and you put time and effort into building an authentic relationship, then it can pay dividends. So as mentioned, some of the challenges in working direct is that you have to find the ideal influencer. So we'll be looking at some tools shortly to see how you can do that. You'll also have to write a creative brief. So this is telling the influencer all about you and your brand. We're going to cover writing a creative brief in more detail in one of the follow-up mini lecture series. You'll also have to think about a contractual agreement, how you can ensure that if you are paying the influencer, that whenever they are creating branded content, that it is within your brand guidelines, and that they are actually stipulating that it is a paid advertisement. Otherwise, both you and the influencer can get into a lot of trouble with the advertising authority. You also need to devise a method to measure their success. So the influencer could say, yeah, well, I've made lots and lots of posts about your brand, but if none of those posts are driving traffic to your website and they're not actually helping to achieve your objective, then, on what basis are you going to judge the quality of their posts and actually say, yes, you've done what we've agreed, and you've done everything that you can, so therefore we're going to pay you. So how do you measure success? How do you say that the influencer is creating good quality content for you? And then you need to think about how you're going to attribute the influencer's activities to what's happening in your particular or with your digital assets. Let's say, for example, since you've been using an influencer, there's a sudden spike in traffic. How do you know that that traffic is coming because of the influencer's activities? So hopefully you guys will remember one of the first sessions we did when we looked at Google Analytics and how you can actually set up campaigns. So you'll be able to see if traffic is coming from the influencer's website. You'll also perhaps be able to set up what we call UTMs, so little links that you can put in posts. So you can actually set up campaigns on Google Analytics and see if when someone clicks that specific post made by the influencer, whether it drives traffic to the website. So if you're going to do influencer marketing, you need to have a method and some knowledge to set up a system for attributing their activities to any traffic or conversions that you have on your website. So one of the ways that we can actually find an influencer, if we're going to look to develop a direct relationship and find them ourselves, is to follow hashtags that relate to our audience or our brand, or perhaps the positive impact that we're trying to have. So if you find a person who is using hashtags and they have a great audience, sort of a large audience that's very similar to the audience that you're looking to nurture, and that audience is very engaged, you might identify them as a micro influencer in that particular area. So using hashtags is one way to help you to find particular influencers. Another way to find influencers is to actually start searching Google with keywords that relate to your positive impact project. Put yourself in the shoes of your audience. Think what sort of queries they might type into Google when they're looking to solve the problem that your positive impact project actually solves. So if they were typing in beach cleans in Southsea, is there an influencer who is writing blog posts that are coming up in the search engine result pages, in the what we call the SERP, so the search engine result pages? If that blogger has a blog that's coming in the 3rd, 4th, 5th position, they're obviously very good at SEO. They probably have good traffic going to their website. So that person might be an influencer that you could reach out to work with to create content for your positive impact project. So following hashtags and typing keywords into Google are two ways to find an ideal influencer. Another method to find an influencer for your positive impact project would be to use social analytics tools. So I've listed a couple here: Keyhole, BuzzSumo and TweetReach. Now most of these have either a 7-day free trial or a sort of free version of them. And again, these are great tools for doing hashtag research, also for sort of finding out sort of who's getting the most traction in terms of engagement, and again just helping to narrow down who might be an influencer in a particular area or on a particular topic. Another way that we can actually find influencers is to actually have a look at our existing audience. So if you are working with a brand in the future, let's say you're working for a charity or a small business and they already have an existing following on social media, you could actually have a look at that particular following and see if there's anybody within the audience who is very vocal, who gets a lot of engagement, who is sort of perhaps has other groups that they have created on social media, and look to reach out to that particular person. They might even be a customer and say, we'd like to work with you more closely so that we can leverage your content, and other customers will recognize that as being much more authentic. And again, people trust people. So if they see an existing customer who's used your product, who can talk about it sincerely, in detail, and authentically, other customers will be more likely to listen. So to kind of sum up, there are 3 main ways that brands can get started with influencer marketing. So they can either go direct and look for an influencer themselves and develop the relationship and create a creative brief and contracts. So this is low cost initially because they're not having to pay for a platform or an agency, but it is higher risk and a lot more effort. There's a lot more things that need to be developed and discovered. You can use a platform, so there may be some cost. Most platforms will let you browse and have a look at all the different influencers that they have, but once you actually want to work with one of those influencers, you'll normally have to sign up for a premium version of membership to the platform so that you can actually reach out to the influencer and develop a relationship with them. Using platforms is less risky, as a lot of work has been done behind the scenes to sort of vet influencers, and they have minimum sort of entry requirements. It's not as safe as working with an agency, as you'll doubtfully have the sort of the legal contracts in place that an agency offers, but there is somewhat less risk and a reduced amount of effort, as a platform provides a lot of really useful tools and metrics and guidance on monitoring and measuring the success of campaigns. Finally, the highest cost initially, using an agency. Again, lots and lots of benefits, lots of people involved in supporting you, lots of experience, lots of tools and sort of legal, technology, all sorts of different ways that the agency support both the brand and the influencer. So again, lower effort, lower risk, but much higher cost. So reflecting back on the learning outcomes, hopefully you've developed an awareness of 3 different ways in which a brand can get started with influencer marketing. So direct, using a platform, or using an influencer agency. Hopefully you've understood some of the research a brand can do to help identify the ideal influencer. So you can look at search engine result pages, so use Google and use keywords that relate to topics or the problem that your particular project is resolving. You can also use lots of social media analytics tools such as Keyhole and BuzzSumo, do hashtag research, and also look at an existing audience to see if there are any very influential members of that audience. Hopefully also now you can evaluate some of the limitations and benefits around the ways of working with an influencer. As mentioned, we will be going into more detail in one of the next lectures, looking at how to draw up a creative brief and some of the considerations that you need to make. This way, if you do decide to go direct and look at finding an influencer for your positive impact project, you'll know some of the things that you will have to develop to make sure that that works. So as a little activity following up this mini lecture, why don't you sign up for the free trial or free access from the below tools, or find some other tools and start doing more keyword research and start to actually have a look for particular influencers that might be well suited for your positive impact project. And don't forget to check out the reference list for more sources on influencer marketing. Look forward to seeing you in the next video.